we begin the afternoon session, and the session is called The Case of the Young Detective, a session on young sleuths, mysteries, and detective fiction for younger readers. Please welcome writers Bijal Bacharajani and Shweta Taneja and Reena Puri of Amar Chitra Katha. The session is moderated by Sudeshna Shome Ghosh, who heads Speaking Tiger. Welcome, ladies.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a nice lunch. And we are back here to talk about the session is called The Case of the Young Detective. And I'm so glad that the crime dead. Dead right. Dead right thought of adding a session on writing crime mysteries for young people. Because I think perhaps every crime fiction enthusiast here has started off because they read that Enid Blyton, that Nancy Drew, that Hardy Boys, that Agatha Christie, etc., when you were growing up. So, and for me, it was like detectives like Feluda, so these are all like foundational to our crime fiction reading and pretty much to our reading as well. So, yeah, I mean, all of us have memories of spending holidays and afternoons reading all these detective books, sitting under the fan and waiting for the final reveal to happen. So today we are joined by three stalwarts in the field of children's writing, editing, and publishing in India today. So really fortunate. And they will come to this panel with very different, from different viewpoints of writing, this kind of writing for a younger audience. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll introduce them. Reena Puri is the executive editor of Amar Chitra Katha. She has spent a lifetime inside India's mythological imagination as author of an expansive body of work spanning the Shiv Puran, Tales of the Devas, the story of Tanaji, and much more. All these books have reached hundreds of thousands of readers across generations. At Dead Right, she brings her extraordinary command of India's ancient narratives to bear on the question that the best crime fiction always asks, not just who did it, but why. And what justice means in a world where the gods themselves are suspects. So that's really exciting. Then we have Bijal Vacharajani, who, when she is not reading a children's book, she is writing or editing one. She's an award-winning writer of multiple planet-friendly books, including A Cloud Called Bhura, Savi and the Memory Keeper, and When Fairyland Lost Its Magic. And I just finished reading her latest book last night, which is amazing vintage Bijal book called Revolution in the Valley, which will be out soon, and I hope all of you pick it up and read it. She has also been an editor and publisher at the wonderful Pratham Books for almost a decade now. And to introduce Shweta, Shweta Taneja is an award-winning Indian author and a leading voice in feminist speculative fiction. She is best known for the Anantya Tantrist Mysteries, a critically acclaimed series in blending dark fantasy, tantric lore, and gripping crime fiction. And she's also written The Ghost Hunters of Karseong, a mystery adventure for young readers. Her work has been translated into multiple languages and they have been optioned for film as well. So very varied and different ideas about this genre of writing, I'm sure. So let me start by asking a question of all of you. What mystery, crime, detective stories did you all read as a child? And was it your favorite kind of reading when you were a kid?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making it in spite of lunch. So I grew up in a basement filled with books. My dad runs a bookshop in Delhi. And I used to spend most of my summer holidays in that bookshop, which had all kinds of boring school subject books and not enough fiction. So I ended up picking up classics as the first series that I wanted to read, which was Enid Blyton's, because they were part of the school, curriculum. And obviously, the whole adventure of finding something or finding a mystery or solving a mystery was something that struck really, really well for me. And it kind of traveled with me through the years as I became a journalist, as I started writing fiction. And at the end of it, by the time I kind of was growing up a little bit, I was looking at Terry Pratchett's humor and fantasy and detective genre bending, and I think I have stuck to that genre bending since I've started writing as a writer and as a reader. I love multiple genres coming in together, and yeah, that's been my journey and my interest. Yes.
Wonderful. Reena, what about you?
Yeah, so of course, my childhood was in the 1960s, and we didn't have many Indian authors at that time. So I did read Enid Blyton and went on to Agatha Christie and Robin Cook, and they were mostly, books from, not from Indian authors. So I was brought up on a diet of that, and then when I joined Tinkle as the assistant editor. That's when I really started thinking India and writing for Indian children. And I was writing detective and mystery stories for Tinkle at that time. Yes.
Bijal.
I feel all of us have such similar childhoods, whichever decade we were born in, nose buried in books and just not looking up from those books. It was the same as you, Reena. Very few Indian authors that we had access to or were publishing for children that much. But we had this wonderful, wonderful magazine called Target that came out when I was a child. And suddenly you had like Faster Fene who could like run faster than a train and solve mysteries. And then there was Detective Moochwala and his dog. I mean, those moustaches were just a joy to behold. And the mysteries that came with them. And I think that really got me interested in mystery writing for sure. But also I still have this vivid memory of my parents watching this film called Gumnam, and then I'm like, this plot seems very familiar. It's an Agatha Christie book, and I felt so clever because I had read all the Agatha Christies in my school library.
Yeah, and sometimes now I'm appalled at how young we were when we were reading Agatha Christie, because they have really adult themes of adultery and all kinds of things. Murder, of course, but murder you expect. But this was like, yeah, so we were reading Agatha Christie and all. So, yeah, so, but Reena, I want to come back to you. So, as an editor myself, I always feel that, when you're writing mysteries and crime, you really need to have a very detailed plot line. You need to have characters who are, formed over certain, a length of time. And of course, the plot is very important. But you have been doing this in the format of a comic for the longest time. How have you managed this? And what are the things that you look for when you're looking at a story that will become a comic, but is also a detective story?
So, crime wise, if anybody knows Tantri the Mantri, yeah, okay. So, Tantri the Mantri is pure crime. I mean, the way he has devious plots to get rid of King Huja all the time. So, we had Tantri, and we just had to create plots about how he would next try to bump off King Huja. And then when I was there, I created two characters called Mopes and Purr. Yeah, so they were the detective duo who lived in Crawford Market in Bombay, and they would solve animal crimes. So through those stories, I could even tell children about animal rights.
So, animal crimes meaning where animals are
Animal-
being trafficked.
Yes,
and,
yes,
right.
exactly, like that. Or helping, trafficked primarily. And then also other ones where, cat loses her kittens and then they find them, that sort of thing. Oliver Twist kind plot. So that was Mopes and Purr. And nowadays they have something called the defective detectives. where there are two boys, Rahul and Ravi, who who are actually finding mysteries where there are none, and they are fighting alien enemies and all kinds of things. But it's a riot. So they are funny, and so I mean these are the kind of detective stories that we've had in Tinkle for a long
So
time.
did you feel that there should always be an element of humor in these stories? And is that more important than it being a mystery story?
Personally, I feel humor is very important for children. You know, so because it's otherwise it scares them a bit, and we don't want to put fear into a very young child. But I know that now we are having stories which could be a little scary, and we have this artwork with shadows in the background and knife like that and all that. But yeah, but I would love to have stories with just humor in them. Yeah.
So that's a shift that you're seeing
Yes,
even
yes,
within
yes,
Amachitra Katha.
yes.
That's
In
interesting.
Tinkle, in
In
Tinkle.
Tinkle, sorry, yes. Bijal, similarly for you, you've been a picture book editor for a long time and you have published stories which are absolutely wonderful, like Beauty is Missing by Priya Kurian. And it's a mystery story about a missing buffalo. And then recently you've come out with one by Shabnam Mehlwala.
Detective JG and the case of the missing necklace.
Yes. So similarly, how is it to bring these stories into a picture book format? Because again, they tend to be more complicated and you have to look at various aspects of the story. But how do you do it?
You know, when we started with Beauty is Missing was perhaps one of the first mysteries that I edited. And I think what was exciting was because one is you have a word count of say 499 words, and you're like, how are you going to put in a mystery, plot, character, all of that, and an ending? And then here's the thing, Priya Kurian is genius. But also what she did was she put the illustrations in, she drew the book in such a way that the illustrations themselves were offering clues to the mystery. Firstly, she had a woman inspector, as a woman constable as the character. So Jinsi is going around looking for the missing buffalo. And as she does that, if you are looking closely, and which is what children do, unlike adults, they were able to kind of, by the time they were back onto the second read, they were like, if I follow this breadcrumb that she's left, I'll know that the culprit was this. And so those visual cues actually become clues in themselves. Similarly, for Shabnam Minwala and Sunaina Coelho's Detective JJ, that's a comic book meets a picture book format, and it's set in a train. So again, that train, Sonana was able to use that space to create atmosphere. We could remove all those words from Shabnam's text to just have the illustration say it. When the suspect crops up, it was her illustration that kind of gives you the clues. And again, an important clue is actually just a visual clue that's there throughout. So I think that's the exciting thing when you work with illustrations, they suddenly take over the visual narrative and it becomes its own plot for the child.
That's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And Shweta, you, in fact, I would think it would be the opposite for you because you write speculative fiction, sci fi, and then you've written mystery stories for younger readers. So, how do you decide on the level of complexity that you put into a book? Like, is there like so much that you want to talk about, and there are so many aspects of um, science or technology or folklore or whatever that you are talking, your book is about, you, is there a lot that you want to put in and then you scale back on it, or do you still put it in? How do you do it?
uh, by writing a plot at a breakneck speed first. What I like to add in world building. Obviously, as many of you know, world building in a fantasy or a science fiction novel is very important part. Atmosphere, place, world building, where the story is being placed. And what I generally start with, but with when you're writing for children, I think they're very character driven. As editors, of course, you would have experienced that as well. So as a writer, I obviously want to create a rich world of fantastical world which has its own laws and rules, and cultural mores and social mores and physical laws and magical laws many a times. But if you're writing that for children, it has to be minimalistic and it has to be part of the very plot that they are trying to solve. It cannot be told in any way. Otherwise, the child very, very fast loses interest in a story. So it's the characters, and what how I mix it both is it's the characters' journey as through the world, through say a paranormal investigator's world. I'll give you an example. I have a book for young adults called How to Steal a Ghost at Manipal, which is based in the Manipal University. So there are these 7 cases that there's this student who lands up there from Haryana, and she's studying there, and she becomes part of a paranormal investigators group who are investigating ghost instances in Manipal. And there I have used the atmosphere, the folklores itself of Manipal and Udupi and coastal Karnataka. So that research came in as part of each of the stories that I built. So the character is exploring the world with us, and I think that the protagonist is exploring the world. It's a college story. There's love, there's hatred, there's jealousy and romance, but it's also a very, very character driven as well as a world driven story, in the sense that there is a Ouija board case that she's trying to solve, where and some of the stories interestingly have ghosts who are perpetrators, and some of them have ghosts who are victims as well in those stories, which is what I really liked about this, building up this whole. But folklores was interesting, like getting that into the story. So yeah.
Okay. So, but like I sometimes feel that, when we were reading Enid Blyton's, for example, we used to read about, measuring the footprint and have a little diary in which they would write their alibis. They would go around interviewing people and say this one was here, so they are ruled out. But those days are pretty much gone for kids now, right? And even when I, like, suppose read a Feluda now, and that Feluda has a character called Shidhu Jata, to whom Feluda would go to ask detailed backgrounds about people. And now Shidhu Jata would have no role
Now
at all,
ChatGPT
because
will pay
there's,
that.
well, I was thinking Google, but yeah, ChatGPT. So, so how do you? I mean, do we need to keep updating the stories for younger readers, and do we need to do it faster than it's happening for these books for adults? What do you feel as editors and writers?
So I'm a technology journalist, guys. So I'm like a fiction writer who loves mysteries, but I also am a technology journalist with Hindustan Times. So I love AI, tech, all the glistening digital world parts as well. I do feel that, but a novel structure, that novels that I'm writing, the structure itself is on the pages, and it's still, isn't it? After the novel is published, it doesn't change. Like the digital world is constantly changing, so I always feel that pull between the digital and the real life novel that I'm going to write, produce, and get in. I think how I would do it is either try to, if I'm doing a classic mystery, like I have a Ghost Hunters of Kurseong, which is set in Kurseong. This was written 10 years ago, so there was no internet there. So then you kind of get into the closed room mystery element, and you can stay away from the tech elements. But today, I think kids are so smart and so technology and digital driven, that if there is a child character that you create who is solving something, the first character reference they would go to probably AI. I hope not, because they hallucinate all the time. But also to check their social media, and there's a lot of communication, a lot of clues in social media. Like it's almost like footprints, right? Digital footprints are important to build as part of the storyline. I think today, if I write this book on Kurseong, I will not be able to get them to physically interview folks. They will probably have recordings, they will have camera traps or something. I don't know, to catch the culprit, that kind of stuff.
Unless you
Yeah.
set it in a time, like previous time, like it's a
Or set
set
it.
in a different
Yeah,
era.
in a different era, like a history. I think history, genre bending with or fantasy genre bending with detective fiction is because of that. Because all of us maybe somewhere want to escape the onslaught, digital onslaught we are going through as well.
What about you?
Yeah, definitely we have to upgrade and we have to, be in touch with what's happening. Like we started Tinklewhen in the 1980s, in 1980, and now it's 2026. Time has really flown and things, we've seen so much of change. So with each generation, we have to move forward and use the elements that are present and relevant to that particular generation. So even today, we're using all this in our stories. There is ChatGPT, there is AI.
Is
I mean,
it? Okay, in Tinkle. Okay.
they use those things to maybe solve a problem. Or we also have something called Who Done It, where we give them a mystery and we tell them to solve it, and we can tell them how to solve it also. So we give them clues. Of course, we don't use AI for writing. Okay, let me make that very clear.
Important to say
There's
that. Yeah.
or art. AI is not used in scripting or art, but yes, in the plot, we would use it, as Anja says.
I've actually just recently, who I think is like the queen of young adult crime writing, Shabnam Minwala, she came out with a new book called Death Comes to Mathiran. Yeah, and it's like one of those books. It's a young adult novel which uses email, WhatsApp, less email, WhatsApp text. Especially young adults
people,
don't.
yeah, they don't, yeah.
DMs, and then there's like this packet of letters that has been sent to her with documents and everything, and so it's kind of like the appeal series books, in that sense that there are multiple formats when you're reading the book. And it essentially breaks down the narrative also to perhaps what is relevant to a reader today.
Yes.
But it made me actually, I sat and thought about this a lot when I read it, that we like mysteries and adventures have changed in format from the time that children will go around ruins and islands, get kidnapped, and yet you'll be able to fall back on a friend to come and rescue you. Then you had like your Holmes and Miss Marple and Poirot, and then you had Feluda. And then suddenly, I feel what's happened now is that there's the rise of the individual teen, who with earlier used to be the Secret Seven, the famous five, something three investigators, and now it's that one person.
And one person who has probably been wronged or has a very dark past.
Yes,
And, yeah.
and then she's there looking at social media.
Generally lost a parent.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of killing off one parent in every book, so if not two. But I think that's something that's also very reflective of how we operate today. It's all about the individual. It's about you using technology to figure out instead of relying on your friends always.
And there's a lot of falling out with friends happening
So
during the
much.
course of these stories, which is also happening on Instagram DM or something like that, like you're dumped on DM. So yeah, so it's very interesting to see that happening. But as also Jerry pointed out, that these books are about death, usually gruesome death, and that's pretty much the fulcrum of most of these crime things. So, are there any topics that you would not want to write about or publish or want to see in a book for young adults? Is there anything that is off limits anymore, or
Well,
what are your thoughts on it?
yes, I'm okay with young people. Yeah. So I do, as a writer, I think I've always tried to push the boundary of what we cannot talk about and go into the what we can talk about space. And maybe as editors, you might be having, and individually, you are playing both roles as well. So yeah, for smaller children, yes. So I would definitely think that kids are way more resilient. Young readers are way more resilient than we think of them as. The only thing that for me is a self-censored idea is the idea of hopelessness, like end stories which do not have a resolution, which do not have like, I mean, this whole world is slightly young children, sorry about this, but they will learn cynicism, they will learn everything. So I would want a happy ending. I would want, if friends are fighting through, which is a great plot point, I feel friends do need to fight and grow together. I would want them to all come together at the end, have solved a mystery, even if it can be or might be a death of a person, because they are going to see that around them. We cannot as writers cannot like protect people from those stories.
Yeah.
But I do feel that as readers, when you're reading something like this, there is resilience that's growing in a reader itself, to say that okay, this happens to other people. If it's happening around me, it's maybe I can deal with it. I really feel that, but I'm not sure. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know whether that
So,
can really be helpful.
so even within crime fiction, you feel there is a way of bringing in various other kinds of ideas as well. For example, in Beauty is Missing, you bring in different, layers to the story, and even in the Tinkle ones, for example. So, is that something that you actively look for, or for you, is it more important that the mystery is mysterious, and how do you balance the two of these things?
I think in that sense, if I'm looking for a mystery, I think the mystery is got to be a mystery. I can't have a reader come and then be like, "Are mystery? Where was the
Yeah.
mystery in it?" Yeah, but I think, for instance, going back to Beauty is Missing, I think it's such a great book. Uh, because the mystery is fantastic, but it does many other things. We go a lot to many libraries and chat to children, and so many of them want to be police inspectors. And to have a woman constable who's out there solving crime, uh, I think that's a great role model to have right there. I don't think Priya was consciously thinking about it, but just in her DNA to say, I'm doing a constable, it's going to be a woman. Similarly, it brings in, like Reena said, it talks a lot about animal advocacy. You find out that buffaloes actually have very sensitive skin and they love listening to music. And so there are these little moods that Priya's put in. And I think one of the biggest outcome of that book was not children wanting to be detectives, they want to be inspectors for sure. But they all look at a buffalo now and they say, oh, look, beauty. And I think that's what books tend to do. They do lots of things. It's a lot of heavy lifting that's happening all the time. But the authors are hopefully eating their protein like Instagram tells them to.
And doing resistance training. Yeah.
With us in Tinkle, of course, we do not bring in murder or bloodshed and violence like that. That is forbidden totally. But in Amar Chitra Katha, we cannot avoid it. We are
Absolutely,
talking
yeah,
mythology, and mythology is full of stories where all kinds of things are happening. So then, when we do the comic in the comics format, we have to sort of mask it. And we do that in the artwork. Now, we did tribal leaders of the freedom struggle, and each one of them, they were fighting not just the British, they were fighting the landlords as well, Indian landlords. And almost all of them were hanged, sentenced to be hanged. So then we don't want to show the hanging itself. So then we show it either in a silhouette or just a rope. So we try and mask the end, but we cannot not tell it because that is the story. So we have to put it down in
Yeah.
ACK as such. We try and not choose the very violent ones, stories, but I think the whole of mythology is full of instances
Yes,
of
you can't
great
really
violence.
escape it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm very intrigued by your bio, and though you said you're going to have a session about that right after this, but I do want to know that how do you tackle it when the gods themselves are suspects? I really want to know the answer to that.
Well, if the gods are suspects, they also face karma.
Okay.
So, yes, they do. No, no, no. I know Indra does very often, and he's always doing silly things and he's always getting away with it. But actually, the gods also pay for what they do. And so, I mean, that's how it is in. Yeah.
Shweta,
I have an interesting take on this when are gods accountable. Now, when you're creating fantasy, and I write a lot of fantasy, right? The rules in that, and I also look at mythology as fantasy in a way. So the rules in that fantasy world are very, very can be like there are different. It doesn't necessarily need to reflect our modern world. So gods might have different rules of getting
okay. So
justice,
they have their
maybe.
own set of
Maybe,
okay,
maybe,
right
maybe
and
it's
wrong.
their immortals, and maybe immortals have some different logic of. They can kill
Okay.
a few more. I don't know. I'm a little flexible on that. So I'm just trying to say
Flexible
that,
morality.
yeah, flexible morality, because you're writing fantasy and you're redefining morality in each of the world that you're building,
Okay.
really, as well. Not
But
literally.
but coming back to like true the actual format of the crime fiction, or well, for young readers maybe we won't call it crime fiction, but mystery books. But Reena and Bijal, as editors and also people who read a lot of books for young people extensively, and Shweta as a writer, what do you feel are some of the must-haves that have to go into these stories? Like, how do you get a child's attention and get them to keep turning the page? I mean, there's some obvious answers to that, but are there any special things that you write or look for when you're reading such a book or a manuscript or a story?
So I think mysteries in terms of the plots are very similar for sure. But I think twists are important.
By
And
twists, what do you mean? Please tell me.
like something coming out of the left field, young people love that, just absolutely that. But I think one of the most key things is paciness, and Rick Riordan is a study for that. Chapter 1, school has burned down, ferocious cheerleaders have battled with him, and he's getting a chocolate chip cookie that's blue in color.
And he's got a sword from somewhere.
Oh, so it's
his
always in his
backpack.
pocket. Yeah. So in one chapter, all of this has happened, and that's why I always think, like, for me, that's a masterclass in pacing. I think when you've got a crime that's happening around you, coming of age becomes essentially a part of that, because whether it's a petty crime, whether it's something like murder, it changes you essentially. And you are at that age as a teenager. So coming of age becomes very much part of the story. And the thing is that I think perhaps when we were younger, the books that we had, like Nancy Drew, the most she would have is a very chaste kiss with Ned, right? Ken was Barbie. Ned. Uh, and now, and everyone turned to Sidney Sheldon and Daniel Steele for more. But now, like from Holly Jackson to, yeah, to romantasy, there's a lot of sex that's happening across the pages. I think that's just become part of young adult books for sure,
Yeah. But there's a lot of middle grade mystery writing also happening.
which are
and
so much fun.
They are a lot of fun. I
A
love
lot of
reading those
kookiness to
myself.
it, which I enjoy.
Yeah, so there'll be like a murder in a museum or something like that. Yeah. Reena, what do you feel about this?
So for us, it is as Bijal said, the paciness. Like with every panel in the comic, the action has to move. It's like making a film, a storyboard for a film. We can't stop to describe things. There's no description. We have to show it in the panel itself. And the conversation has to be pacey, and it has to move from one twist, as she said, to another. So the story has to take those twists and turns and those blunders and those mistakes which our defective detectives make, which keep the children laughing and keep them interested.
And you also have to have red herrings and
Yes.
things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's how we see for young people, comics like that.
For me, it's also, I think a child who's reading has not met quirky characters. So I feel mystery, especially by the nature of mystery, because you need to meet a lot of people to solve clues or find out, or maybe interviews. Other than the pacing in which Bijal and Reena mentioned, I feel the quirky characters meeting people and trying to negotiate as you would in real life with adults, sometimes with like grumpy adults, or super helpful adults, extra helpful adults, or your own classmates, or that can add a very nice color, as well as place, the sense of place. If it's a mystery set in a place which the child has never seen, the idea of what is there, what kind of trees are there, what kind of roads are there, are they, when does the sun
Yeah, that's-
set,
yeah.
that color brings in the wow in any good mystery for me, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we just have time for some audience questions. So, are there any questions for our panel? Yes. Do we have a mic? Yeah.
I have a question regarding uh, Tinkle, maybe Tinkle, or not necessarily only Tinkle, any other comic for that matter. Now we have many of these comics which are historical, mythological, and all those. Now, do we have any comics on demystifying the myths in the society, or witchcraft, or scientific thinking, or coming out of superstitions? Is there any effort being made in that way? Number one. Number two, in the era of screen today, both in the hand and on the table or on the big screen, how comics or children's books are a challenge for the writers or the producers. And thirdly, who are the targets of your writing or comics, whether village children are reaching out to these things? Sorry for three questions, but hope it is
yeah.
important. If whatever important is there, you please answer.
I'll ask you again, like, what is the first question?
Yeah.
What was the first question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first question is, we have many comics. Is there any plan, or is it happening in the market, that superstitions, witchcraft, scientific thinking,
Yes.
Lots of
are you
them.
trying to overcome them and
Yes.
make
Yeah.
some efforts?
So in Tinkle and in Amar Chitra Katha, Tinkle especially, we have dealt with superstition. We've had stories where, a grandmother is superstitious about something, and then during the story, the child, explains, or through the story, tells her that it's not the case, or the rationale behind the superstition. There could be something that created that superstition in the first place, like don't step out after 6 o'clock. Why was it? Don't cut your nails after 6. The rationale behind that is that it would get dark and then the nails would fall, and nails were not particularly clean things, So you cut it in the morning and throw it somewhere outside. Or you don't step out after dark because there were snakes and animals. So the logic behind the superstition and the fact that why it is not necessary to follow it now. It's not relevant anymore. So those are explained through stories in Tinkle. And in Amar Chitra Katha, where there's mythology and there's a lot of, there's a lot of, there are a lot of stories which you cannot really explain as such. And we talk about things like child marriage. Anandibai Joshi, who was the first doctor, lady doctor in India, she was married off when she was a child. So then when we say that she was married off when she was 10 or 11 or whatever, we put it at the bottom that child marriage is now banned in India. It was there in the past, but it's today banned in India. So
How popular are these topics when compared to mythology or mystery among the children?
I think the children enjoy every kind of story. For children, a story is a story. And that's how it's been from the beginning of time. Storytelling is something that we've had for thousands and thousands of years. And children grow up on stories. And we bring stories from all the parts of India, all states of India, from all sides of India. And I think children are just looking for an interesting story which will not just entertain, but maybe, as my founder editor Anant Pai used to tell me, he says, let them read it, let them enjoy it, let them laugh at it, and at the end of it, let them just take back something very small from it. So we try, and it's not that it gets preachy or anything, but we just try and bring out something small, which they will.
The challenge of the publishing and the
Yes,
screen.
the screen. Yes, that is a challenge definitely, and the digital format is something that has come very much into the forefront. So we are entering all the platforms. Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle both will enter all the platforms. They're already there on Android and iOS or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not very yes, and YouTube and things like that, and animation. So we are entering all those fields so that we keep our stories. See, the format changes. That's all. Earlier, we used to paint on caves and tell stories, or we made sculptures in temples and told stories. But today, we write them, or we see them, or we watch them. So we have to change that format with every generation.
Will it soon change completely to the
Can
screen?
Can we go on to somebody else?
Yeah, please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think this is a discussion you can have outside.
Sure, sure.
Hello, ma'am. So I have grown up reading Amar Chitra Katha. Like, whatever knowledge or whatever interest I have in Indian mythology came from there. So, and there were a lot of stories which I had never heard of, or it's not in any mainstream texts or anything. So I wanted to know about the research part of it. Like, what research do you do in bringing these stories to children?
So actually, that will go into the how we ideate for a particular book. So, like in this last few years, we've been concentrating on women-oriented books. So, if we want to see the path breakers, like who were the first women who actually broke the glass ceiling and moved forward in various, professions, then the team has to research them. So we go, we read books, we go on the net, and we find out about them. And we do extensive research. We try and get in touch with their families, whoever is left. I mean, of course, the people we write about have all passed on. So we see if we can get hold of their families or anybody who knows them personally. We talk to them. I mean, that's why we do it. It's very, very intensive research. For a biography, it can take up to 3 months to just research the people. And it's only after that that we put it down as a story.
Thank you.
Are we completely out of time? Okay, I think we can take one more question if it is kept brief.
Hi, amazing session. Just one question. Since AI is in the forefront of everything possible, where do you see it in terms of comics, print media, stories? Because right now, from what I know, AI can be used to generate and make your own set of comics as well. So where do you draw the line between you actually doing it vis-a-vis, AI coming in? So I just have that question right now.
I'll take that. Okay, so I'll give you a recent example. I just brought out a book called the Big Book of Wild Poop, on wild poop for Indian animals. Okay, and I was trying to research as a journalist, as an author, for the book, because it's a nature book. It's on very specific ecosystem element on poop. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, let me see what kind of research elements it shows me. Because I asked the question, and I'm looking at scientific research that has happened in the past, because obviously, supposedly, it has all the answers, right? And half of it was wrong, because the information is so niche that as a journalist, I had to go back to scientists, I had to go back to scientific paper. So the things that it didn't know, it was making. So what I'm trying to say with this example is that you can definitely use AI, and you will use AI in your everyday life, in your everyday tasks, but have a healthy cynicism against it as well, about it. Like, whatever you are being fed, like you with humans, if even if your parents tell you something, you are a little cynical till you experience it. So let's keep that barrier between that technology and not trust it so much that it instigates us to do something, pushes us in a certain direction of thinking as well. But it will be used in all aspects of, even as a creative writer, it will be used as a journalist. It is being used for research and in all aspects in different ways.
But right now in Amar Chitra Katha, we do not use AI. I reiterate that. We do not use it for artwork or for scripts.
I do want to add that a lot of publishing houses are adding it to their contract, including us, that you will not use AI for writing or illustrating, and we'll not use it for editing. So it does come down to institutional policies as well.
Yeah,
Very true, very
and
true.
I think a lot of creators themselves are asking for this clause to be included in the contract, that their work will not be used to train AI also. So there's a lot of things that are still very they're still developing. But I think some things we are very clear about. Like who killed Roger Rabbit? Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shweta, Reena, and Vijay. Thank you.